Hey guys, welcome back to my channel for another video. As you may or may not know, today is the kickoff for Congenital Heart Defect Awareness Week. So today, February 7th through February 14th, is a week dedicated to raising awareness of all things congenital heart defects. So, what we're going to be doing today, I have a very small plain white t-shirt, and I have a much larger version of that plain white t-shirt, and we are going to be doing a t-shirt transformation challenge. I made that up on the spot, so I don't know if it's a real thing yet, but what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking these plain white t-shirts and I'm going to be making me and Daniel shirts for CHD Awareness Week. I have some cool ideas in mind. I'm going to try some things that I've never tried before, so I'm super excited to see how they come out. Along the way, I'm going to be spitting some CHD facts at y'all. Without further ado,
let's do it!
And we are ready to start with our first step of our t-shirt transformation challenge, and this is also going to be the step that I've never tried before, so this is going to be the first time that I've ever dyed t-shirts. So I'm going to be dyeing these two t-shirts, and I'm actually going to be using a cranberry pomegranate green tea to dye them. I don't really know what we're going to get, so I'm really excited to see how they turn out. So I am working on boiling some water here. Alrighty, so our water is working on getting to a boil, taking its sweet time. My friend Gracie just recently did a video on her channel where she dyed shirts using tea bags. And so I went over and watched her video to kind of see what we needed to do. Her channel's the Marsh Fam, by the way. So we are soaking our shirts in cold water right now before they go into the tea. So we're going to let those soak in the cold water. We're going to let this get ready boiling. I'm going to go ahead and throw in the tea bags. Alright, we're getting a pretty color here in our water. I guess since I added more tea, it's kind of more of a really deep purple, but it's still really pretty, so I'm still excited to see where it goes. Alrighty, so we're just going to wring these shirts out before throwing them into the tea. Okay, so I ended up just letting the shirts soak overnight because the last time I checked them, they were still a little bit pale. So I went ahead and threw in some more tea bags and let the shirts soak overnight. So I am about to pull them out and see what they look like. It is time for the reveal. I was using this to kind of make sure everything was covered. And we're just going to take a peek at a piece of the fabric here. Oh my god! That actually turned out so pretty. Okay, I know that y'all can't really see it right now, so I'm going to go ahead and pull these out. So now you can kind of see more of that color that I was talking about. I think that turned out really pretty. It's definitely more of a pale pink than I was expecting, but I really do like the way that it turned out. So I have my strainer here. I'm going to go ahead and get all the excess water out of these. Oh, I thought it was not gonna turn on. The shirts are drying. I just want to take a second. The big thing about raising awareness with congenital heart defects is congenital heart defects are among one, the most prominent birth defect. So it's one of the most common birth defects that babies are born with. Two, it's among the most deadly. 1 in 110 babies that are born will have some form of congenital heart defect. It's like Daniel has multiple congenital heart defects. There's a lot of misconception about actually living a life with a child or as a child that has congenital heart defects. I had a friend who had to take her baby into the hospital, and they were sick and stuff. They were there for a day or whatever, and she told me, she was like, I understand, you know, like why this was so hard, you know, being in the hospital and everything. But the thing is, whenever you have a kid that has a virus, you take that kid into the hospital. They treat them, do whatever they can, hopefully make them better. They go home, and in a month, you've forgotten that they had a virus. Homecomings are very temporary. It's always until next time. The first time that Daniel came home from the hospital, he did really good for a little while, like a couple weeks, and then he got really, really sick. We had to put him on oxygen. We thought that it was just kind of related to the vaccines that he got. You know, she's like, you know, sometimes for heart kids, it's normal to them to need a little extra help. Days later, he about died on me. So I woke up, and like, he looked okay, but he didn't look like himself. And I called my mom. I usually always had someone go to doctor appointments with me because it's really hard to handle an oxygen tank, a baby, a pulse ox, and a feeding pump. I said, hey, I'm going to swing by the house, and then do you want to help me go to the hospital? Because I'm just going to go get him checked out. And so on the way to my mom's house, he's on a continuous pulse ox, which is a machine that is constantly measuring his oxygen saturations and his heart rate. So on the way to my mom's house, his heart rate starts dipping into the 90s, which it had never done before. It was always like 110s and above. And so I started getting really concerned because I'd never seen that happen before. I called my mom and I was like, make sure you're ready to go because I feel like we need to go, you know. And so I pull up at her house and I like jump out of the car and go to check on him, and he was just gray. We didn't end up taking him to Dallas. My mom jumped in the truck and we went to our local hospital here in Forney. And we drove the truck about to the front door, parked it there, left the doors open, carried him inside, and scared the hell out of everybody. And then we were like, he has heart defects, he's had heart surgery, we don't know what's going on, he's struggling to breathe, dropping his heart rate. And so they come in and they take him back, and they instantly start working on intubating him. Keep in mind, this is not a children's hospital. This is a local ER. And so they were having a hard time getting him intubated, but about 10 minutes later, they finally got him intubated. And as soon as he was intubated, as soon as they got him intubated, his entire body went limp. And I thought that was it. Asked the nurse there if they had given him any sedation, because I literally picked his arm up and it just dropped. And I was like, is he sedated? And she was like, no, we haven't given him anything. Explained to me that a lot of times whenever kids come in that sort of distress, once they take over for them and they don't have to breathe on their own anymore, they will sometimes just pass out just from the exhaustion of keeping themselves alive. They basically told me, where are we sending you? They were like, where are we transferring you to? Medical City, Dallas. Let's say it was 45 minutes to an hour before the transport team got there to take us to Medical City. And I was just sitting in the hallway, and we got him loaded up, and I rode in the ambulance with them to Medical City. And still this whole time, he hasn't, like, since he's been intubated, he hasn't moved. And so in the back of my head, I really still didn't even know if he was there. We get to Dallas finally. And we get him up in the CHSU, which is the congenital heart surgery unit. It's like the NICU, especially for babies who have to have heart surgery. And so we get up there, and of course, you know, they start running labs, doing echoes. His kidneys are failing, his liver is failing. Like, it was terrible. And the doctor walked out and he said, his heart function looks awful, but we're not sure what's going on yet. Came back out and started talking to me again. He said, we think that his aorta has coarced. So basically, when he was born, his aorta was really, really narrow. And so that was whenever they did his Norwood, which was his first open heart surgery, they took care of the aorta at the same time. And over time, it had, like before we were released from the hospital, they did have to balloon it again because it had started closing. And so this time, it happened really, really fast. 10 days before he was nearly dead, he had an echo, and we got sent home. 10 days later, they tell us he's scraping the treetops. That was how the doctors explained his condition whenever we came in. But to go to cath lab, which is obviously what he needed, so whenever they go into cath lab, they can take a catheter and go in the groin or in the neck, and they can access the heart, and they can go in there, and they have a little balloon. They can pop things open, they can take pictures, they can take measurements of like the pressures inside the heart and all kinds of crazy stuff. And so that was what he needed. He needed them to go in there and do a cath and go in and balloon his aorta. But when his aorta had coart, it had essentially cut off the blood supply to his organs. So luckily, whenever he had his first heart surgery, he got a BT shunt. So since he's shunted, his heart automatically made sure that his brain was getting blood first. And so luckily he didn't suffer any kind of brain damage or anything like that, but his kidneys, his liver, and his gut took a really hard hit. To go into the cath lab, you have to get a lot of dyes and stuff like that, which is all processed by the kidneys. And they felt like that would just be way too much for him. Thank you. So they didn't feel comfortable taking him to the cath lab. So he laid there, intubated, on IV fluids for a week. And then he went to cath lab. Got his aorta ballooned. That was what turned into the 2-month hospital stay, okay? So after that, some other things. There were a couple of other things that had to happen. 2 months later, we get discharged again. Finally, felt like we were in the hospital forever. Finally got home. I was holding him on the couch, and he was hooked up to his pulse ox monitor, and he was asleep, and all of a sudden, he just, I don't know how to explain it other than he just felt like a rock. And so I sat up really fast. I looked at his pulse ox monitor, and I watched his heart rate drop from 110 to 52 in about, probably 4 or 5 seconds. He was lethargic, which he was asleep, so it wasn't like he just passed out, but he just felt very lethargic and he didn't wake up. First, I screamed, and then I threw him on the couch and did CPR. Brandon called 911, and we were back in the hospital. Literally, we got the same room. They still had his name on the board and everything. They didn't have to change anything. We were right back. So, when you tell me you understand my life because your kid had a virus and you spent the night in the hospital, well, I told myself I wasn't going to get sappy and emotional, so that's enough of that. Alrighty, it is time to see what we got. Oh, okay. Alrighty, so what we ended up with is a very neutral, light pink wash color. I didn't really know what to expect. This isn't exactly what I was expecting, but I really like it. Okay, so this part of the transformation process is only going to pertain to my shirt. I'm not going to be doing anything with Daniel's in this step. So I just tried the shirt on, and I marked kind of where I want to do my cut. So I'm going to be cutting the neck out. The back. So with this one here in the back, I want to kind of stretch this a little bit. Alrighty, so I've made this graphic here on Cricut Design Space, which I'm going to be cutting with my Cricut to apply onto our shirt. Okay, so I did end up remaking the graphic for Daniel's shirt just because, like I said, those tiny lines on the other one were so impossible to weed. So I ended up doing something else. So we have everything all cut and weeded here. So I'm going to go ahead and apply it onto the shirt. All done. Chicks dig scars. Turned out super cute. Yay! So overall, I'm really happy with how it turned out. The color and everything. I really like it. I think it turned out super cute. Alrighty guys, that's going to be it for today. This is our finished look. So if you remember, we started with the plain white t-shirts. We got a little bit of dye, did some cutting, and then we ended it up with a vinyl transfer. So I'm really happy with the finished product, and we had a lot of fun. I hope y'all had just as much fun watching. That's going to be it for today. Say bye, guys!